question is how often do I come back and review the position? Well, so one of the things I do just before I pull the trigger is I'll write up a one paragraph um, thesis, usually no more than 6 or 7 sentences, of why it makes sense to make an investment in that business. And part of that 6 or 7 sentences is what that business is worth and why it's worth that. And so, usually every quarter or every second quarter, every 3 months or 6 months, I'll review some of the metrics that are coming out of the company to see how they line up with what I had assumed or thought might happen. And as long as that is things don't go in a straight line, as long as they generally line up and they don't seem to egregiously violate what we might have assumed, then we might update intrinsic value calculations every 6 months or something. But once the business gets to being worth around 90% of intrinsic value, it's a candidate for sale. So we know when we are going to sell before we buy. Not when, but we know under what circumstances we'll be selling. And sometimes we might sell even before that if, something gets to be a 75 or 80 cent dollar and something else shows up on the radar that's a 40-cent dollar and we don't have cash, then we might make that switch. So those are some of the reasons that it might make sense. And if I can add one more thing, there were these two professors. I think one was at Ohio State, the other was at the University of Nevada, and they did a study of Berkshire Hathaway for 30 years. I think from the mid 70s to around 2005 or 2006. And they said that, what would be your returns if you bought what Warren Buffett bought after it was publicly known that he had bought the stock? And they made an assumption that you would buy the same stock on the last day of the month that it was publicly known that he had bought that stock, and you found the worst broker on the planet, and you paid the highest price that the stock traded at on the last day of the month. And then you started selling that stock when it was publicly known that Buffett had started selling. And again, you would sell on the last day of the month that it was publicly known that he's selling. And again, you would look for the worst broker on the planet and sell at the lowest price that it traded on that last day. And these guys said if you did this for 30 years, you beat the S&P by more than 11 percentage points a year. So the S&P has done around 10% or so over a long time. This would have done around 20, 21% or something over that period. And, if an investment manager just beats the indices after fees, they are already in like top 15 or 20% of investment managers. If they beat the indices by just 3 percentage points a year, they are in the top 0.5% of managers, the top 1 in 200 managers. When you are talking about outperformance of 11 percentage points a year over a period like 30 years, that is such an outlier that you would probably be amongst, one of the best managers out of thousands and thousands of managers. And with due respect, you wouldn't even need a BC degree. In fact, you could walk out of the class right now and set up the Berkshire Clone Fund, which just does that. And in fact, every time I talk to students, I tell them this particular story. And I always wait for someone to, first of all, leave the classroom, but secondly, start a fund that does that. And after all these years, no one's left the classroom and no one has started such a fund. And so that opportunity is still wide open. And so I just want to let you know, this is not something Arvind's going to tell you. He's going to like put your nose to the grindstone, make you do all kinds of analysis and stuff, and it's all boring stuff. This is the real way you make money, and such. And you can hang out at the beach or on the ideal ski hill for 29 out of 30 days. In fact, you can hang out for 30 days. You can just take a 15-minute break on the last day just to check if Warren done something or not. And after you replicate what he's done, which will take you over 5 minutes on your BlackBerry or iPhone, you can go back to your skiing. And lo and behold, you beat the index by 11%. So and in fact, in many ways, what Pabrai Funds is doing is something similar. I haven't taken the rigor of just doing exactly what these professors said, but in effect, I'm cherry picking what some great brains have already processed and said are what they think are great ideas, and then just looking at the ones that I think pass my limited circle of competence, and then take it from there. So let's take the next question.